It's time for the Albion Mag Radio Show.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks to James for that wonderful intro welcome there. It's a dream come true to come onto the grandstand theme tune for those of us of a certain age. This is the Albion Mag Radio Show, as you just heard. My name's Leon. I'm here with, this is not the Johnny Come Lately show. We've got, once again, Paul Druitt returning.
Good morning.
Morning. And for the first time this season, our old friend Neil Smith.
Morning, Leon.
Good morning. I reckon between us, we've got over 100 years of supporting the Albion combined.
Did you have to bring that up to sound horribly old?
Yeah, but I worry because, as I say, I think because we're a hip, happening, funky radio station, I think people think that we are, JCL Plastics, and actually nothing could be further from the truth.
No, we're right down with the kids, really, aren't we?
We got some tracks coming up later from our friends at Jalapeno Records to prove that we are down with the kids. You can listen wherever you're listening already, but we are on 1BTN. This is available online wherever you are. Also, DAB Digital and 101.4 FM on the airwaves. You can get involved on the radio show by contacting us on social media at TAM Radio Show. We have a thread on North Stand Chat. Our social media guru, Tom, is monitoring from a remote location somewhere deep in the heart of Brighton, and we'll be getting in touch if you speak to us and let us know how you feel about last night's game and other news. We've got a really packed show, actually. There's been a ton of Albion stuff happening. So I think we should start with with last night. 3 points. Say what you want about Friday night football, but it's all right when you win, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it makes the whole weekend, really, doesn't it, when you do get that 3 points on a Friday night, and then you can just sit back and relax and enjoy the rest of it.
Yeah.
See the other team struggling, hopefully. Well,
that's it, especially with the fixtures. I think most of the teams below us have got at least difficult games, and I think we can hope for negative results for many of them.
Yeah, I would have thought so. I mean, hopefully Huddersfield will pick up another defeat, and same with Newcastle at United.
Cardiff at Spurs.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll still have a 6 point gap at the end of today.
That would be ideal. And I think before we get into perhaps what wasn't the most convincing victory of all time, or the best performance,
That's an understatement, isn't it?
Let's just celebrate Glenn Murray a bit more. He's almost at the ton since... his home league record since the start of 2016-17, 44 appearances. He's now 35 years old, 37 starts, 30 goals, 3 assists. So he's been involved in 33 league goals in just 44 home appearances. That is astonishing, really.
It is, isn't it? And I think, we're kind of running out of superlatives, really, aren't we? We've discussed Glenn a number of times, I think, on the show, and what else is there to say? He's getting better, if anything, I think, isn't he? I mean, the finish last night was nice, wasn't it?
I thought it was sublime, actually, because the defending was poor. He was left free, but he made what is a very difficult technique on the half volley, and to steer it very wide of a very good keeper. I thought he made it look so easy.
He did, and he's done, those kind of deft. That's the second time, isn't it, this season? I think the goal against United, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Which was a slightly different body shape and flicking it the way he did then. And last night he opened himself up so well. I'm not sure where the West Ham defence was, though.
They analysed this on Sky quite well, as you'd expect. Well, they had Neville and Carragher in the studio on the pitch, it was essentially Gary Neville was very critical of West Ham, basically thinking they had to turn up last night because they were on form and they underestimated us, and they were playing with fullbacks pushed up a long way. So when the right back gave the ball away, the left back was on the halfway line, basically. So he did sprint to get back, but then he did sort of almost get in line with Glenn Murray. But when Kyle's cross came in, which wasn't the best hit cross ever, the fullback just just kind of watched, just sort of took a step back. As for the centre halves, not sure.
Yeah, we were kind of queuing up, weren't we?
It was weird because it looked like he was covered almost, and then they just sort of the sea just parted for him as the ball came across, and that was the difference.
Yeah, it's probably a clever bit of manoeuvring on behalf of Glenn, but I think he does a lot with very little in terms of just putting himself in positions that the defenders don't necessarily expect. He just ghosts around for a big man.
Yeah, he's just got that knack of turning up in the right place, and he's also an absolute nightmare for defenders. The amount of hassle he gives them through the game. I mean, he was having all sorts with Zabaleta and various other players last night. It was just like winding them up beautifully.
Yeah, he loves it. He scored 12 for us in 2018. The only other Englishmen with more goals this calendar year are the England strike force pretty much at the World Cup, Harry Kane and Jamie Vardy. There were also some, I've watched most of them back, but some very, very tight offside calls. Actually, I think maybe for West Ham too, the lino on the east side had some very tight calls to make, and some of them were extremely dubious. The Bruno one was correct, but there was one later on Solly March, which I still think he was probably onside, came from behind the line.
Well, from my viewpoint in the southeast corner,
oh yes,
where I was clearly, had the best viewpoints. To call on these, they were clearly onside from where I was. No, I mean, you guys obviously being in the west were kind of in line, weren't you, with some of those? So, and as I say, I was in the southeast corner, so I didn't have the best view, but. Just the reaction of because from the southeast corner you get a great view up the east stand, and the reaction of the family stand to one of those offsides was quite vehement. So I could only take from that there was some kind of indecision about whether it was or wasn't. So
one that I don't think we actually have any qualms about the decision, bar the decision by Jahan Baksh to take it off Murray's head when he was in an offside position. The cross comes in, Jahan Baksh sort of tries to stick a nut on it, and it just goes flying up in the air. Meanwhile, behind him, an onside Glenn Murray is kind of stooping to put it in the bottom corner. That was
very unfortunate. But I guess he's just really keen to try and do something, having been kind of sitting on the sidelines most of the season so far. And it was good to see him get a start. Yes. I thought first half he was quite bright. Second half he probably faded a bit, but overall he's doing all right.
Yes, I think so. I think he'll be a very good acquisition for us. Izquierdo came on and looked just like he'd never been away. I thought when he came on, he was a real outlet.
Yeah, I mean he's another one like Glenn who enjoys playing against West Ham by the look of it.
Yeah,
he was trying to recreate the goals he got last year.
Yeah,
almost did it again. So.
6 goals in 4 against West Ham for Glenn Murray for multiple clubs. I think that includes Palace, certainly, possibly Bournemouth as well in the Premier League. One thing I did want to hear from both of you about was how did you feel March acquitted himself in the sort of free man support role behind the striker?
I thought in the first half, I was quite interested to see Houghton actually trying something different. So I thought first half it worked okay-ish, and then second half it didn't really do it for me. But then the whole team was struggling because we weren't really keeping the ball enough. But I don't know what you thought, Paul.
Yeah, probably much the same, to be honest. I wasn't sure how he was going to change it in the second half. He's obviously like Solly March, doesn't he? Solly March often gets a nod over Knockaert or Jahan Baksh. But, I just don't think Solly is in that position in the middle. He's not going to hold the ball up much, is he?
No.
And I don't know. It flatters to deceive a little bit for me, Solly March.
His decision-making seems to still be the issue. So there was one fairly early on where he got put through on the left-hand side, kicking into the south, and took a blazing shot again when Glenn Murray was ghosting in at the far side of the area.
He did. I think maybe, to be fair to him, that was kind of pretty much in front of him. He did look up. So he'd obviously made the decision. I don't know whether he thought the keeper was a bit off his line or something like that, but he made the decision to kind of smash it. But obviously the execution, wasn't quite right, and possibly it wasn't the right decision. But he certainly kind of did look up and see where the keeper was. But I don't know. He for me, from what I've seen this season, he's had one good half, and I think that was the first half against Spurs. I can't think of too many other games where he's really done it for me. I don't know.
I'm thinking if we're going to play with that, obviously Pascal Gross is going to be back hopefully sooner rather than later, but if we were going to play with three of the wingers, with one of them in a central position, I think Izquierdo, Knockaert and Jahan Baksh would be a terrifying proposition for any defence.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think Solly's probably benefited from the fact that we've had these wingers who haven't been quite ready to go this season, and then also losing Gross for a couple of games. Otherwise, I don't think he would have got nearly as much game time as he's had so far.
Yeah.
Without wanting to put the boot into him anymore. Because he's young and he's homegrown, so it's good to see a few of them in the team.
Absolutely, yeah. Comedy moment of the night was probably the run that Knockaert made deep from our half into our own half, from the halfway line, where he ended up sprinting backwards with the ball at his feet, or not backwards, but towards our own goal, and then ended up just toe poking it about 3 yards sideways to an on-rushing West Ham attack.
A slide rule pass there where he just almost fell over it and then put West Ham through. But,
he was sort of played into trouble, but sometimes he ends up making those runs facing the wrong direction, and you just think, please turn, because by the time he's gone, he sets off like a rocket and he goes 20 or 30 yards into our half, and it's all right if he comes away with the ball, but if he doesn't, you've given the opposition an attack for free, basically.
Yeah, I mean, Knockaert had one of those sort of manic nights of his where it kind of he was trying to do everything and nothing at the same time, and it all kind of nothing really came off for him the whole evening. But at least he always tries something. That's the great thing about him. And he keeps going for the whole game.
Oh gosh, yeah. And even when he gives the ball away, he absolutely busts a gut to make up for any errors by sprint the length of the pitch twice to atone.
He does, and that's why we love him. And like Neil says, it's always that positive intent. I think I've said this on the show before, like when he gets the ball at his feet, there's always positive intent. All right, sometimes maybe it's a bit manic, but I love to see that positivity. But I can't believe that was the comedy moment of the night. Surely
what's yours?
The referee picking up the rubber phallus that was thrown onto the pitch by the West Ham fans has got to be the comedy moment of the night.
You had a better view of that.
I did, and yes, it was a love toy of some type. I don't know if I've ever seen them
device,
on
a prosthetic body part.
Yeah. And there's a brilliant picture of the referee walking off the pitch as he took it towards the West Ham fans after it was.
Do you think he did that on purpose? Kevin
Friend.
I
don't know. Kevin Friend,
quite friendly.
For those of you, probably if you look on Twitter, you'll find it. But yes, Kevin Friend. There's a great picture of Kevin Friend, kind of walking this. With this new friend, walking this object off the pitch, shall we say? So seek that one out.
Yeah,
that's got to be the comedy moment.
Yeah, no. Well, if I'd known, Sky didn't go big on that one for some reason. Less amusing was the treatment dished out by West Ham fans to Davy Prupper. So he went down in the box while West Ham were on an attack. And initially, one can understand fans being sceptical. Everybody does it, to try to gain a bit of time and an advantage. But it turns out that Davy Prupper left us down to his injury, not his fault necessarily. He left us with 10 men for a good 2 or 3 minutes. And ended up having to be substituted and left the stadium on crutches. So the fact that he was getting absolute pelters from the West Ham fans for cheating was just unpleasant, really. Like, I think most decent fans, like, obviously you give some stick out, but when you realise that a player's properly hurt, you retract it or dial it back a bit, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was the sort of timing and the location of it that probably was the issue, because West Ham were in like really good position. You see a player go down, you do sort of, and the ref stops the game. You do think, is he trying to gain an advantage? Yeah. But and it obviously wasn't a head injury, but
no.
Yeah, and then obviously it was in front of the away fans as well. So I mean, they were going to give him a lot of stick, and especially on a Friday night, you're going to get.
Was that when the object
abuse
came on the pit, or was that?
I think that was probably after that. Was okay. I can't really remember.
Yeah,
but Paul's got a better memory of this. It's obviously stuck in his mind a bit more. But, it was unfortunate for Prupper, although he's probably not going through his best phase with us at the moment either.
We've talked about this outside of the show, and Prupper. Yeah, in fact, we did talk about it a bit last week. How he's an absolute Rolls Royce of a player in some ways, in that he's incredibly comfortable on the ball and he'll pass it around all game and won't misplace too many passes. But in terms of getting in amongst it and getting the ball back and making things happen, he's not that sort of player. And with that in mind, it was great to see Baram Kayal tearing it up last night in that regard, busting a gut up and down the pitch, getting in people's faces, getting the ball off defenders as well as midfielders, and trying to influence the game in a more major way.
Yeah, Kayal was definitely the man of the match last night. There's no doubt on that, really. He was the one who was trying to drive us on when there wasn't really a lot happening for anybody else. So it's great to see him back, really. And it'd be nice if maybe him and Stevens can be reunited to this partnership that they had a couple of years ago.
Yeah, a couple of injuries now. Obviously, Basuma's fully fit. His latest chant got a rather nice airing last night, which is to the Tequila song.
Yeah, that sounded good, didn't it?
It's pretty good. Yeah,
and that's good fun. There was a big gang of guys getting on the train when I left the stadium, kind of all singing that, and that's a good one.
There's a big gang of guys getting on the train singing to the West Ham fans a song that won't repeat on the air this morning, but we've decided outside of the show that what they were suggesting the West Ham fans do is very difficult, possibly impossible.
Don't think, with bubbles they're going to burst, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly, unless they're made of something very solid. And if it's no longer a bubble, then it's not you're not actually doing what the song is requesting.
I think we're over-analysing this one. Possibly.
That's possibly the right word for it. Talking of Baram Kayal, man of the match, yes, that was what the sponsors said. Over on Sky, Gary Neville couldn't split Dunk and Duffy, so he gave them a joint man of the match award for their services to throwing themselves in front of everything.
Yeah, no, I mean they did their usual. Dunk's developed this nasty trademark move as well now, though. When he's over covering for Bong, he just seems to get completely muscled off the ball, allowing somebody a free run in on goal. So. And
overall, I thought Bong had an excellent game last night, but there were still a couple of moments where he gave the ball away, and obviously. But I suppose any fullback's going to get beaten a couple of times a game, and that West Ham forward line is not to be sniffed at, is it?
Yeah, I mean they look like they were targeting him a bit in the first half, because there was one beautiful ball played over the back of him to Zabaleta to run onto. I think Anderson probably put it over, and he had one or two moments, but he, as he always does, he kept going, and he did all right overall. Yeah,
he was caught speeding at one point. We'll come on to that.
I thought Anderson, Neil just mentioned Anderson, I thought he looked like a pretty good player. I don't know how he's been playing for the rest of the season for West Ham, but I'm assuming he was one of their big...
He's a problem for other teams.
He looked really good. Was he one of their big money signings in the summer?
Probably so, yeah.
They spent a fair bit, didn't they? And I thought he looked really good. And Arnautovic, as much as
he was a threat the whole time.
And I did see...
wasteful though.
Yes, and he could have had 2 or 3 last night probably, but Dunk and Duffy were interviewed by Gary Neville and Kelly Cates after the game, and they said what a difficult player to kind of play against. Arnautovic is, and was there some rumour doing the round in the pub afterwards that he not got on the team bus or something like that? There'd been some kind of...
Haven't heard.
It was one of our friends who's kind of maybe prone to hyperbole a little bit. So I don't know how many beers he'd had, but he certainly said that Arnautovic had kind of stormed down to the bus and got his bag off the bus and then stormed off. So I don't know if that was
in Brighton.
Maybe he's just looking for an Uber or something. I don't know. But there you go.
Interesting. Yeah, Yarmolenko and the rest of the West Ham players conspired to waste a number of excellent free kick situations. I was waiting for the net to bulge on a number of occasions. They got free kicks on both sides and central, not far outside the box, and they never troubled Matt Ryan.
No, they dealt with all of them pretty much identically, which was just kicking it over the bar without ever threatening.
Which meant Glenn Murray didn't have to throw his arms in front of any of them, which is a bonus.
Also progress.
BBC Sport actually gave Glenn Murray man of the match, and the Fantasy Premier League gave the 3 bonus points to Glenn Murray as well, with Ryan getting 2 and Bruno 1. So everyone's got a different opinion, and it's weird that we've had all this positivity about our players when actually West Ham had 65% of possession. They had 17 shots to our 9, both 4 on target. They had 9 corners to our 2, and to me it felt a bit like an away win, like we'd done a bit of a smash and grab.
Yeah, it was. I was saying after the game that it was probably the first game that we've won in the Premier League where you could say we actually were a bit lucky and maybe didn't deserve it. So that which is again progress in a way, but actually winning ugly, because we certainly weren't at our best last night. We didn't keep the ball, and second half we were pretty poor in general. It's
a concern. We want to be continuing to do what we did last season against the teams around us and below us, which is to dominate the games. We don't want the Amex games to become like that, but I think we'll hopefully have to put it down to the fact that we were playing a West Ham team with good players and on good form, and maybe when we get to play Huddersfield and Cardiff and people like that, we'll show what our actual home impetus tends to be like.
Yeah, and I think you can't downplay the influence that people like Stevens have as well. When he isn't there, then the midfield just doesn't tick so much, and also Gross as well is another one who can actually hold up the ball occasionally. So I think that's where the retention issues were.
Yeah, Pellegrini said we were better than Brighton, but it's hard to argue really. Chris Hughton said we made a lot of poor choices on the ball.
Yeah, I don't think you can argue with either of those. It's two pretty good managers who are both erudite and kind of pretty calm about the way they talk about football, and I think they're both spot on really, aren't they? It wasn't the best performance. I'm not quite sure what is missing at the moment. I think Neil's right about Stevens. Obviously that does provide that rock in the middle, and maybe helps us to retain the ball better, but it wasn't a great performance.
It's rare for us to win a game without Stevens. It's rare for us to win a game without Pascal Gross, and actually we did it without either of them last night. So happy days. We're sitting pretty, opening up a gap, and I still have a funny feeling that ultimately this season is going to be more comfortable than the last. Partly circumstantial due to the teams below us, but hopefully I'll be proved right. Big news as well yesterday before the game. I didn't see this coming, but both the first choice centre halves have signed massive new deals to 2023.
Yeah, well, Dunk's got his annual contract renewal.
It's at least annual. Yeah,
so it seems to be. It seems to be. Yeah, it probably is every 6 months now. I assume he must have, a very good agent, and B, he must have some kind of clause in there that whenever somebody comes in who might be on more money than him, he gets bumped up to at least match them. So it's good for him. On. And Duffy's becoming as important as Dunk as well now. Probably, arguably, has been playing better this season than Dunk. So fair enough. It's good to get them tied down. It means, there's a bit of security there, and if they do go anywhere else, then
we get a wedge.
We get big bucks.
Yeah, we got Balogun waiting in the wings, who's done nothing wrong whatsoever. 30 years old, a bit older than Duffy and Dunk, who are both mid-20s, and I guess he knew the score when he came that he wasn't going to be first choice. I guess he'll just bide his time, wait for his opportunity. Yeah,
you'd hope so. You'd hope, he's got that professional attitude. It's funny you mentioned, what do you think they're on? We had that exact debate in the pub after
so
the game.
So hard to know now.
It is, isn't it?
You can look at Football Manager for a clue, the game, because they do their research, but obviously they can't know.
They can't know. I mean, I think the general consensus amongst the four of us who were chatting about it in the pub afterwards that we reckon Dunk's probably on 50 or 60 grand a week. I don't know where we've kind of come to that conclusion from, but I'm sure he's the highest paid player at the club, or one of them, and we reckon Duffy, didn't we, about 35 or 40 nil? Was that what we kind of? Yeah, so
regular international as well, Duffy.
It's complete conjecture.
Totally. I would get. For some reason, the figure that came into my head for Dunk was 70, so similar ballpark. But yeah, disappointingly, I already alluded to it with an aside, but obviously it means that we're in the news as a club for the wrong reasons. Gayton Bong pleaded guilty to speeding at 90 in a 70 mile per hour zone. I know. Probably every motorist, you are both drivers, I'm not, who listens to this will admit to having done 90 on a motorway before, but he was caught. He was in his Land Rover on the A27, which is not a motorway, on 29th of December, travelling back from training. Fined £667, which will obviously be a massive blow to him, plus costs. He already had 6 points on his licence. Before this offence, he's got 3 more. My message, just as a human being and as a local, is don't drive like an idiot, because you are endangering people's lives. I don't know what else to say, really. I know it's a bit righteous, but
yeah, well, he's not the first either, is he? Because Knockout was done fairly recently as well. But it's just a habitual thing with footballers nowadays, isn't it? So you've got a nice car, so you're going to use it.
At least he wasn't over the limit.
And well, exactly. He's not. We've had that in the past as well. So
yeah.
I think the local police have actually got a kind of permanent setup on the A27 there, because wasn't that where Knockout was caught as well, I think. And obviously you've got all these very highly paid players in all their very, very powerful cars kind of whizzing along there day in, day out. So it's probably a bit of a money spinner for the for Sussex Police, I would imagine. But yeah, I mean, you know, like you say, let's not be too righteous, but yeah, just don't be an idiot, really, I suppose.
The club ain't going to like it, are they? They're not going to be happy about publicity.
Did he
like
have
that
a licence? Wasn't there something about him?
There
he didn't have a licence, or
I think that maybe was red tape or something. I'm not sure.
Right. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, if he hadn't had a licence and was caught, that would have been a bigger story possibly. But yeah, anyway, stop it, Gayton. We want to love you. Happier news. Albion coach Paul Nevin, not Pat, the diminutive Scottish winger, and erstwhile pundit. Paul Nevin, Chris Hughton's first team coach, will join Gareth Southgate's England staff for matches against the USA and Croatia next month. He'll be involved with the Three Lions at Wembley on November the 15th and 18th as part of the initiative from the FA to ensure BAME and that is Black, Asian and minority ethnic coaching placements in all England squads. He is delighted. When I got the call, I was absolutely delighted, he said, and feel it's a very privileged position. I'm aware of the need to give opportunities to the quality BAME coaches out there, and I think the FA are leading the way on that. So he's obviously happy about it, but I did find myself wondering that as a coach, knowing that you've been picked for a job as to fulfill a quota of representation, it must, like, as much as, applauding the initiative, obviously there's been a massive shortfall in this regard for decades, in particularly with BAME coaches, but then to be picked because of the colour of your skin, effectively your heritage, isn't it almost like it's there's a kind of a bit of a backhanded compliment there or something?
I guess so, but I think it's probably something the FA have felt kind of almost forced into, because none of the clubs seem to be actually, with us being one of the few exceptions, actually giving chances to managers from other ethnic backgrounds. So I think fair play to them to do it.
Oh yeah, and all those who have benefited from this so far have signed up for it and basically and turned up, and hopefully he'll prove his case. And from Brighton point of view, we've got Dan Ashworth coming into the club, and we've got a Brighton coach going to the England setup. Hopefully they'll stop ignoring Brighton players for potential caps as well.
Maybe, but they're generally only picking players under the age of 20 now, aren't they? And we haven't got too many of them, so not in the first team.
Yeah, that's true. It's only Solly March, and I don't think he's quite got the consistency going yet. I
would love to see a Brighton player kind of pulling on the England shirt. Yeah. I was a bit young when kind of Steve Foster did it, but that would be, almost like one of the last kind of ratifications of our
status
rise back up, right?
Yeah.
Just to see that happening. So that would be amazing.
The funny thing is, though, we've currently got Dutch internationals and Israeli internationals and various other internationals who are, and certainly some of those. I mean, I know the Dutch are on a bit of a downward curve at the moment, but there's actually other international sides who are there or thereabouts who we do have representation for. So, but yes, as an English person who supports an English club, I totally agree. We'll take a little break there. My name's Leon Cox. I'm here with Neil and Paul. You can listen in on DAB Digital 101.4 or online. We've just been going big on the wonderful, if slightly fortunate win last night, but it's 3 points in the bag, and we're sitting pretty with the whole weekend's fixtures ahead of us. Big game tomorrow, obviously, for the neutral. Are we neutral? I don't know. But speaking of the big boys, the top six, we actually played one of them last week and we haven't even talked about it. We struggled, Paul and I, to find things to say about this game going into it, and now we're going to struggle to find things to say about this game coming out of it. Manchester City 2, Brighton 0. City had 28 attempts at goal. We had 4. Matt Ryan was kept busy throughout. The only action Ederson saw was to comfortably collect an early looping header by Shane Duffy. We have not won on the road in the top flight since November 2017. That was our 17th successive away league game without a win, the 12th in that period in which we failed to score. We did have a late penalty appeal turned down when the ball appeared to hit Fernandinho's arm, But otherwise, our attacking threat amounted to 3 corners and 6 touches inside the City area. At the other end, the home side managed 61.
Yeah, the City are quite good, aren't they? it was fairly successful damage limitation. I think we probably our mistake was actually trying to go in their half, and that's where the first goal came from.
Yeah.
So as it often does against these big teams.
Guardiola rubbing his hands as they see us go over the halfway line.
Exactly. But the Man City game is not one really to worry too much about the stats. But the more worrying stat is obviously the general away form, and those however many games it is since we last won, and probably the games since then. We were ahead at Stoke, were we? I don't remember us being ahead even in most of these games. I mean, we don't score that many goals away from home, but it's not like we've thrown away winning positions very often. I think it's just generally been the first goal is all important, and we don't tend to get it away from home.
Yeah, I always feel bad about this, but it is possible to fully support a manager while also sometimes questioning his outlook. And I do wonder if there are some games where we could really just go for it a little bit more away from home and just actually take the game to them and let them worry about us, because we've got some good players who will worry defences, but if all they're doing is defending, how are they going to do that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you look at the games that are coming up. I mean, we're probably going to go to Newcastle, and barring an upset today, then they won't have had a win yet this season. They'll have 50,000 fans who are like already unhappy, and if we just
Furious.
go there, it's a game where you should go there and have a go at them and try and get that first goal and really get them going at their own team. But will we do that? Will we go up there and just try and camp out for a point, or will we actually go for it? I don't know. I have my suspicions.
I'm thinking.
I don't like to criticise Houghton either, but away from home, we're trying something which, it's been pretty clear it doesn't work in the Premier League, because the 2 wins in a season and a bit show that.
Yeah,
so it's time probably to just be a bit more adventurous and just try a few different things. So
well, that's it. It's you can lose 0-2 without having given many chances away, or you can at least go down 1-3 fighting or something like that. It's at least be something for the away fans.
No,
to
I think
enjoy.
you're right. I mean, look, the stats you just read out are pretty horrific, aren't they? And like you say, we might as well go and lose, by going for it, like, rather than just trying to contain. I think, Neil's right. We haven't really gone up in many of those games. I think that you're right. Stoke was one where Esquerdo scored that great kind of team goal.
Oh, that was beautiful.
And then I think we were up at Southampton, weren't we, last year? But even I remember about that Southampton game, I think we scored in like the 15th minute. And then we just seemed to go on the defensive for the rest of the game, and that seems to be the mentality, and that was quite frustrating. So I'm kind of part of the go for it a bit more away from home club, I think, as well.
And I suppose Houghton would point to vindication being that we stayed up last season. We're currently mid-table. We may stay up again this season if we keep to the current point per game, or slightly more over the season. So he's doing his job. But I suppose if it came down to goal difference, he might be vindicated as well. But we could potentially get ourselves into a less squeaky bum position earlier on just by getting an extra, just even 4 more points on the road, getting a couple of wins where we could have had draws by playing very conservatively.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it puts a lot more pressure on the home form as well if we're not picking up points away from home. And
I think we saw that last night, didn't we? I think I felt the nerves and the pressure, because it was like,
it felt
here we
almost
go.
like a must-win game.
Yeah, which is insane.
Which
isn't it?
it obviously wasn't really, but we needed something to kind of just settle those nerves. I mean, we're exactly where I would have hoped us to be after 8 games, having played 4 of the top teams. You can't ask for much more than what we've got, but we are.
But we kind of
currently we are. Well, yeah, we are, because you always want to see something.
Well,
something
we've already
more, don't
had, like same as last season. We had some games that we drew that we felt we should have won, home and away, actually.
Yeah.
And this season, same. I mean, this season we've come back from 2 goals down, but it feels like those games we've gone 2 goals down because we haven't started with the right attitude, perhaps. Yeah, it's concerning, but yeah, overall, actually, looking at the table, I was pretty happy to see us sitting in 12th in the Premier League last night. So,
oh yeah, then this is where we want to end up, really, isn't it? Round about where we are now.
Yeah, well, 12th, as I've said before, for me would be. I know it doesn't seem like the biggest ambition, certainly not to the fans of the big clubs, but to us, for me, to have our best ever finish in the Football League would be probably a better achievement than I anticipated would happen in my lifetime. So 12th and above would be magnificent.
Yes, no, definitely. I think that's the aim for this season, is to try and get the best ever finish.
Yeah.
Beat that 13th spot we had many years ago, playing terrible football, but very effectively.
And I quite like to finish above Wolves, which I think is unlikely, but it's quite annoying how they've come up, and the media seem to have been saying that they're going to take the division by storm, and they are actually doing very well.
They are, aren't they? I mean, to be fair to them, they're obviously playing some good football, and they look like a force to be reckoned with, don't they? And you're right, the media were a bit like that, and I was a bit annoyed about that too, but they're proving it to be absolutely right. Yeah, so
they could crash in form.
Yeah, well, let's hope so.
We had a Twitter poll. It was actually closed. The reason I didn't do this earlier in the show was because it was actually shut down before we started broadcasting today. But it was just a matter of curiosity among the team, really. We tweeted, when referring to Brighton Hove Albion in a conversation you're having in Sussex, what do you say? So the options were the Seagulls, the Albion, Brighton, or BHA, was a bit of a left field choice, and no one voted for that. Unsurprisingly, the top was the Albion, hence the name of the show, with 58%, followed by Brighton, which is, I think, what I tend to say myself, and the Seagulls, which is, our nickname, it's on the badge. People don't tend to use that. It's only 7%. So what do you say?
Oh, it's definitely the Albion, unless I'm talking to somebody I know isn't really football motivated, in which case I'll just say I support Brighton or whatever.
Brighton and Hove Albion Football Club.
Yes. Association football.
Yes. Never the Seagulls.
I think sometimes the Seagulls gets rolled out by people who have a very kind of loose affiliation.
I agree.
Locals who kind of, know about the football club but don't go, or
trying
don't
to
have
catch
the passion.
a wave.
Yeah, or they just, I think they think that's the term to use. But yeah, I'm very much the Albion when I'm talking about the football club. So not the Blues or the Seagulls or BHA, but yeah, no, definitely the Albion.
Well, we should continue to be called the Albion Mag radio show in that regard. Seems to work. What about when you're speaking to a West Bromwich Albion fan? Does that happen a lot?
That scenario has not cropped up much in my lifetime, I'll be very honest.
I do actually have that, because the company I work for has a branch in Hales Owen, and a couple of them do support the other Albion.
The other Albion.
There is a general debate over who is the real Albion.
Who was formed first?
I've got a feeling it was them, but look where they are now, below us. So
yeah, where they should be. Nice. Right, the women played again away at Chelsea this time, still searching for their first league win after a 2-0 defeat. Fran Kirby and Erin Cuthbert with the goals for the hosts. Uma Tong and Victoria Williams went close for the Albion. Hope Powell says, we're very aware of what we're up against in this league, against this team full of international talent. We set up to be hard to beat, sounds familiar, and I think we competed very well. The second half from us was much better. We pushed the players to be more on the front foot. The disappointing thing is we didn't get anything for it. Despite it all, I am pleased with the way we conducted ourselves. Next up, we have Everton ladies and away again at the Mersey Rail Community Stadium, but that's not for over a week. Sunday the 14th of October. That's 2 weeks. Is that right? Yeah.
No, it's a week.
It's a week. What is the date? It's the 5th, isn't it?
It's the 5th, yes.
Yes.
What they seem to be lacking is maybe a Glenda Murray or something like that, I think. Goals have been a problem, haven't they, so far? Yeah. I know they've been bedding in a number of new signings, and yeah, I've seen one of the games. It was the televised game, but I was there against Liverpool, and yeah, we certainly didn't look out of our depth, outclassed or anything like that. In fact, we had the better of the game. I think it's just it's
it's the baptism of fire of going to the top flight, which, I mean, we did qualify for by right, but we ended up finishing second, so we're kind of there by invitation as well, so it's kind of an unusual situation.
Yeah, no, I watched some of the highlights on BT Sport, and they did, there was nothing between the sides against Liverpool, certainly, so they consider themselves unlucky not to have got something.
I assume relegation is still in existence between the divisions, even though
is it just one that's going down? Is it
just one this year?
I
okay.
think.
Well,
and Yeovil seem to be the whipping girls.
Ladies. The whipping ladies.
I think I'll stop there.
Nice. Well, I'm sure we can avoid the wooden spoon. In under 23s news, Neil's corpse just all with that. The under 23 men, this is Derby County 1, Brighton Hove Albion 0. Our first defeat in that, in what they call the PL2. First league game of the season, Jacob Butterfield fired an impressive long-range winner. Victor, what are we saying? Gyökeres?
That's perfect, isn't it? That sounded... Say that again.
Gyökeres?
Oh, amazing. I'll leave that one with you.
Swedish, isn't it?
Not sure.
Anyway, he has Albion's best chance at 0-0. We now play Peterborough United in the Checkatrade Trophy, presumably managed by Barry Fry. Probably not. Tuesday, the 9th of October at the ABAX Stadium. Anyone know what?
Where's that?
I don't know. Peterborough.
That's what it's called now, is it?
ABAX.
We've had some good times at Peterborough, haven't we, over the years? I think we used to enjoy going there. But it was never called the ABAC Stadium.
I don't know if that is the actual senior stadium or whether they're playing.
Assume it is.
Playing outside in the Checkatrade, but no, it probably would be, wouldn't it? Because it would be their senior team versus their under 23s.
Exactly. Yeah.
Funny old game. But yes, the impressive unbeaten run at the start of the season came to an end. Where we played Derby, we actually played Derby at Loughborough University, which is where they presumably play some of their under 23 games. It was a moment of genuine quality from Jacob Butterfield's stunning effort, which flew into the top corner from long distance. Not much you can do about that. But excitingly, Brighton Hove Albion under 23 striker we've mentioned a lot recently, Aaron Connolly, has been nominated for September's Premier League 2 Player of the Month award. A very exciting prospect. Obviously, none of us is going to claim to have watched him for hours on end, but you see his name keep popping up because he keeps scoring goals, which is... But we did mention David Jipp a few weeks back, so...
Yeah, and Jake Robinson.
But yeah, hopefully he'll kick on. We've also got some non-league stuff to talk about. In the absence of Dean, my lack of expertise will probably show. But in the Bostik League Premier, Whitehawk, currently sitting in 14th, drew 1-1 at home to Kingstonian last weekend. On Tuesday, nearly everyone's played 2 games this week. They went to Dorking Wanderers and went down 2-1. So yeah, sitting in lower mid-table. A few places below Lewis, who are in 11th. They were away at Wingate and Finchley last weekend and won 1-0. Meanwhile, Worthing last Saturday were at home to Leatherhead and drew 1-1. Worthing in second, and Lewis and Worthing met on Wednesday the 3rd at the Dripping Pan, and what sounds like a cracking game. Lewis 3, Worthing 4.
Yeah, I was following it on Twitter, funny enough.
Oh, nice.
I don't think I was doing much else, but it looked like a cracking game between two sides who I think at that level are playing pretty good football. Worthing are obviously having somewhat of a renaissance at the moment, and this it's good to see.
Dean will be disappointed because I failed to fire up the reggae bed. I wonder if I can still do that. This is slick.
The backing track.
Yeah, the reggae bed. Oh, here we go. Hold on. Excitement. Here we go. Somehow, it makes everything all right.
It does, doesn't it?
So I feel I could carry on now.
How could we discuss Lewis and Worthing without this music in the background,
it just speaks to me about local non-league football in Sussex. Bognor Regis Town, who are also sitting quite pretty up in 3rd, they drew 2-2 away to Potters Bar last Saturday, the 29th. Is that Potters Bar?
I think it's
Stoke.
It's somewhere around 125, isn't it?
I'm thinking of the Potters, who are Stoke.
Right, no, it's somewhere around 125, I think. Yeah.
Services, I believe they have there.
Possibly.
Or am I thinking of Peas Pottage?
I think you're Peas Pottage. Yeah. Riveting radio. Man who doesn't drive names service stations.
Every Saturday morning, live from 11 on 1BT. Burgess Hill Town, oh goodness me. We can talk a little bit about this because it's a story. Burgess Hill Town, rock bottom, no wins, 22nd in the Bostik Premier. Last Saturday, they played AFC Hornchurch at home, went down 0-3. That seemed bad enough until Tuesday the 2nd, when they travelled to Bognor Regis Town along the coast and got absolutely gubbed in the Scottish parlance, 8-0.
Yeah, it's worrying times for the Hillians. As a resident of Burgess Hill, I can tell you that the natives are very restless currently.
Yeah,
I feel a bit for Chappers though, because Albion legend.
Albion legend.
And,
so
it's a shame it's not working out for him. I think probably the root cause is just no investment.
Right.
I don't know a lot about the situation because I'm pretty much just devoted to the Albion.
Have you been along to Burgess Hill?
I haven't actually, no. I did play for their youth team very briefly in the 90s.
I was going to say, that wasn't recent.
No, actually, late 80s, sorry, when I was still technically a youth. But yeah, no, I don't support it.
Neil is 47 years old, just point out.
So every year Neil and I discuss, we really should go and see a game at Burgess Hill.
Yeah.
And I think we've been saying that for about the last 5 years since you've kind of been living there, and still haven't made it along, but we are definitely going to do it, aren't we? Particularly as there's so many derbies, I think, this season, with the local sides.
Well, that was one of them, and I guess you could say Bognor Regis is a sort of derby. But yeah, Ian Chapman submitted his resignation, has been given a short leave of absence from Burgess Hill after that 8-0 defeat. In a statement, Hillians chairman Kevin Newell advises that he is considering the matter. Former Crawley Town midfielder Simon Wormel and general manager John Rattle will take charge of the side for this Saturday's match against Bishop Stortford, 3 o'clock this afternoon. New manager bounce, or caretaker manager bounce perhaps?
Oh, almost certainly, I imagine. He'll be bouncing straight back.
1-0. Fixtures this weekend. Dean will be sad to be missing it. He's still away, far-flung climes. It's the Emirates FA Cup 18-19, third qualifying round. We've got Lewis away at Bath City. A very pleasant trip if you can make it. These are all 3 o'clock kickoffs. Billericay Town, not far. White Hawk going there. Then we got Hitchin Town versus Hastings United. Horsham are at home to Poole Town. And Worthing go to the mysterious Moneyfields. Anyone know where Moneyfields is?
No idea. If you are wanting to watch Lewis at Bath, you probably should have left by now. So
so
it's quite a journey.
Yeah, 4 hours.
Yeah, Neil and I once got stuck on the way down there. It took us about 6 or 7. I think we missed the beginning of a 3-1 defeat against Bristol Rovers. Was that right now? When they used to play at Twerton Park, which was Bath City's ground.
Yeah, they shared.
I think by the time we actually got in the ground, were we 2-0 down or something?
Yeah. Oh, that's right, yeah, it was the second goal just went in as we were still outside. The natives were suggesting that we weren't very good, and probably it was almost unbelievably bad.
But we still went in.
Good stuff. And Tuesday the 9th, just one other fixture to tell you about is Bostik Premier, 7:45 Corinthian Casuals versus Whitehawk. Lancing also are the lowest ranked side remaining in the FA Cup and have a replay on Sunday against Hendon after a 1-1 draw on Tuesday. Slick. I realised we have one more topic of conversation to cover, which is fine because we have a few minutes remaining. It came up this week. The Mirror did a piece on the price of being a mascot for Premier League fans. Mega rich Premier League football clubs are charging up to £718 for kids to be mascots and lead out their heroes. 11 of the 20 clubs charge, telling parents it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and an ultimate gift your child will never forget. Prices range from 40 quid at Burnley to £718, ouch, at Everton. Their investigation found most deals include kit, signed balls, photos, autographs, tickets, and the chance to walk their team out onto the pitch. I don't know what you get at Burnley for 40 quid, pie and a Mars bar. £225 mascot silver package at Crystal Palace does not include kit. I'm desperately avoiding...
I think you can get a house in Burnley for 40 quid.
Yeah. Or possibly one in Croydon for 225. Critics say clubs who shared £4.5 billion in revenue last season should give the role to deserving children in the community for free. Martin James of consumer website Resolver said, being a mascot is a way of rewarding young fans. It is not in the spirit of the game or fair play to allow richer kids to queue jump. Clubs who don't charge include Chelsea, Liverpool and Manchester City. Neil, you've got two daughters who both support the Albion?
Yeah, no, they're both big fans, but I certainly wouldn't be forking out that sort of cash.
£350 is our top price package.
Yeah.
You tightwad?
Yes, no, absolutely, I am. But I think it's just I think we've reached the point here where money really shouldn't be an object for the club. It should be that should just be free. I did
some maths. Even if we had 11 mascots a game that were all charged at the full price for 19 league games in the season, it would come out at £73,150 for the club. Obviously, take out of that whatever they pay cost price for the bits and bobs that we give them. You're probably looking at about 50k. We don't need 50k from punters, do we? An extra 50k when we're getting whatever insane money it is from Sky and BT.
Yeah, no, you're right. There's absolutely no excuse for it. I think now the level we've reached, it should definitely be a freebie. And just put it out to...
It's good PR.
Put it out to a ballot or something like that for some of the places.
Totally. Yeah, Paul, you also have daughters. Are they into the Albion?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are. I mean, they'd love to do something. I think Evie, my eldest, probably actually is a bit too old now, and she's very tall, so she might actually be taller than some of the players.
There was a tall girl out with Matt Ryan last night.
Which always looks strange, doesn't it? You know, like, and that's really harsh to say.
Looks like they brought their young girlfriend.
I mean, I think, you're absolutely right. It does seem like a ridiculous thing to do, but I think, the club's view on this kind of stuff is, you look after the pennies and something about the pounds look after themselves, right? So, and Tony Bloom is still owed a couple of $100 million by us, the football club. So
getting it back in dribs and drabs from poor punters.
70 grand
that
at a time.
Doesn't really seem like him, though.
I know. I don't know. But it's the ethos, isn't it? It's the policy that they have that's how it works. But having the discussion we had earlier about kind of Lewis Dunk's new contract, that's probably one week's wages, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, the danger is, I suppose, if you set a precedent of making it free, and then we get relegated and we become a money-losing club again after the parachute payments dry up, then you're actually scraping those quids together. And if you haven't been charging for years, and people are going to say, well, you didn't charge when you were in the Premier League, so how can you charge now you're in the Championship or League One?
Yeah, it's a can of worms, Leon. You just opened it. So, yeah, but they're not. I can't see them, unfortunately, reversing the policy now.
No,
or else they'll have lots of irate parents saying, "Can I have my 350 quid back?"
That's a very good point. Yeah. Well, there it is. Let us know what you think. Tweet us at TAM Radio Show if you think that supporting the club by providing your child as a crutch for a player to walk out on is required. A few of our midfielders may need them. Thank you for listening. We're going to leave you in a moment with a track from Jalapeno Records. This has been the Albion Mag Radio Show. We've got the international break, but Dean and I believe, will be here next week, probably talking about which players have joined up with their international squads. Thank you very much to Neil and Paul for joining me this morning.
No problem.
Thank you.
And we'll see you again soon.